All right. Good morning, everyone. We are Grow the Left. I'm Michaela, and this is Bryce. Today we're talking about occultist Nazi gardening, which is
That's right.
biodynamics.
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah.
the thing that really throws me about biodynamics is that, like, the broad strokes, like if somebody says, "What's biodynamics?" and you say, "Oh, it's the first organic farming movement, and it's like cyclical processes about the holistic view of the farm, and it, like, no outside chemicals and pesticides and all of that." And they put a real emphasis on, like, selling locally and growing locally, and all of that I'm so there for. Like, it sounds so good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Until you look into it just a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from just the spiritual and
Hmm.
occultist sort of aspects,
Yeah.
um, the actual the actual ideology, the actual theology behind,
Hmm.
uh, I guess we should probably mention the broader ideological tenets that spawned biodynamics. Um, one is anthroposophy, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of a, oh man, this is all quite nerdy. Um, but it's sort of a theological or spiritual
Hmm.
pseudoscientific movement
Yeah.
that was started back in 1907, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and it was part of or offspring of a greater theosophical movement. And these terms are a little bit abstract and weird, but uh, basically, the tenets of theosophy
Hmm.
are that cosmologically there's one sort of core essence that spawns everything else in the universe. Almost makes sense.
Hmm.
Uh, from that essence, all of the galaxies and universes are formed, and obviously all the life forms are formed.
Hmm.
Um,
Still totally on
and
board. Sure, why not?
yeah, sure.
For
You know, like,
1907, sure.
yeah, for 1907, that's like actually a decent understanding of cosmology.
Exactly.
Uh, the first beings were beings of pure spirit energy.
Hmm.
Um,
No.
well, I guess maybe
For
if you start thinking,
1907 again, you know.
if you just start thinking really abstractly, maybe they're like talking about microorganisms or like single cells. So maybe
Yeah.
okay. Um, and the the part that throws me is that there is an inherent caste system in what's it called, theosophy,
Yeah.
um, and and in that caste system, the Aryan people are the
Hmm.
people who first came from these pure spirit beings.
Yeah.
And the first version of Aryan people had things like psychic powers and special spiritual knowledge.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean,
from them, they got,
that part obviously is true. So I
yeah,
don't know. I
right.
don't know
I
what's
mean,
your
past
qualm.
tense, we should have known. Speaking of master race, one of the core teachings of the actual religion, or
Hmm.
I don't know if you call it a religion or just an organization
Yeah.
of theosophy, is the idea of hidden masters
Hmm.
who have attained this secret spiritual knowledge and passed that on, only to the Aryans, of course,
Of course.
but have passed that on through the ages. Uh, Something I found interesting when I was researching this originally
Hmm.
is that they're one of the symbols. They had two sort of, or three sort of primary symbols.
Hmm.
Um, one of them is the swastika.
Of
One
course.
of them is the Celtic cross,
Hmm.
and the other one is like sort of a take on a Star of David.
Hmm.
Um, it's a really really interesting mix of like symbology,
Yeah.
but
They sort of grabbed bits from everywhere.
everywhere and just sort of threw it all together
Hmm.
with like a white supremacy like icing on top.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, from that wonky spiritual practice
Hmm.
uh, comes comes this method of farming, which is holistic and organic, and occultists,
Yeah.
in which, in some cases, performs better than sort of wild farming, not commercial
Yeah.
farming,
Yeah.
but it performs about as well as
Mm-hmm.
like some modern organic farming practices would.
Yeah.
Uh,
And what really struck me, it's still around. Like there's a growing biodynamic vineyard movement in Australia.
yeah,
Jesus.
it's something like
Okay.
there is a something like 7%
Mm-hmm.
of organic farming is done
Yeah.
through biodynamic principles,
Mm-hmm.
and there are actually labels for products from biodynamic farms,
Uh-huh.
um, and
I
these
looked that
labels.
up and then I went into my kitchen. I have biodynamic
Oh
honey.
no!
I literally did not know. I
Guess you have
thought,
to throw that away now.
yeah, I've got occult Nazi honey in my pantry.
Oh no! Yeah, I was just gonna say that on average, products from biodynamic farms are 30% more expensive
This was
than
shitting, but that was really expensive. But it's
normal. Yeah,
they got me with their other things, like it's city honey, like it's really local. It's from literally my city, beehives in my city. So I was
yeah,
like, oh, I'm gonna support that. That sounds great. I did
yeah.
not like. I'm so annoyed with
Didn't know it
myself.
was a Nazi Nazi
I
honey.
I
Huh.
did not knowingly support the occultist Nazis.
The occultist Nazi honey.
That's my nickname for
Oh.
Richard Spencer.
No, but that's a tenet of biodynamics, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
the growing of
the
and
local. Yeah,
distribution of
yeah,
your
yeah.
produce locally. It's scary, but like that's what they try and do.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a really weird one to research.
Oh God, yeah, it is. Shall we look at a like short video about an Australian biodynamic vineyard?
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it.
Okay. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
We believe that farming biodynamically is a more holistic way of farming. It's a better approach to looking at the farm system and looking at the land.
Biodynamics is about the whole farm. It's
Sorry, it looks so idyllic, and then there's like this cart full of horns.
Oh yeah. Do they talk about the horns in the video?
Oh yeah, extensively.
Good. Yes,
just
I look
about
forward to
the
it.
farm where the vineyard sits. It's about everything else that surrounds the vineyard. It's about the perimeter of the farm. It's about what's above the farm, and it's about what's below the farm as well.
I believe that biodynamic farming offers us the opportunity to be more intimate with our vineyards.
It's a better way of preserving the soil and enhancing the soil, and it's a better way of
Your face speaking volumes right now.
Yeah. Some of the language is getting me, but
Yeah,
they're not wrong so far. You can enhance soil
yeah.
but I don't know that they know why the soil is being enhanced.
Hmm.
Um, but it's technically true.
Yeah. I also
So,
really,
you know,
I was so surprised because like these guys that are talking, you sort of expect them to like I don't know, have a thing in a degree in economics and working at their dad's, I don't know, golf club supply store rather than,
oh, really?
being into organic farming. But maybe that's just my sort of preconceived
Yeah,
notions of what
maybe.
an organic farmer looks like.
Yeah.
producing
Stop being so
more
judgmental.
I think the Polishers just throw me off.
expensive grapes.
Yeah, this is what modern farming looks like. This and swastikas.
Yep.
Preparation is a substance that we make from natural ingredients to apply to the soil, to the plants, and to add to our compost. We're going to make a tea out of it that we'll use when applying other preps to, help promote, soil health and plant health.
The prep garden allows us to grow some of the different plants and herbs that we then can harvest and dry in some cases and make our compost teas or our preparations to spray in the vineyard with.
So I'm just going to cut it up. It helps speed up the breakdown
I have a
process.
question. What do you think about teas?
I The terrible thing is, I've heard like about comfrey tea and like stinging nettle tea. I've heard this around. I've literally made comfrey tea.
Yeah, yeah. No, the
It's
teas are real, and singing nettle tea is also
sure, right?
something that people drink.
Yeah.
But what do you think about using it in your garden
I have
on
used
your?
comfrey tea. I'm not. I, I, I didn't notice a difference because why?
Mm,
Also, why would I?
right.
Like, it's sort of plant matter
It's.
there's a lot of plant matter in my garden that's decaying. Why would
Hmm.
like it in liquid form do anything? But also, like, a lot of people believe in it, and a lot of people who I don't consider occultist Nazis. I don't, I don't know.
Well, I asked because
Hmm.
one of the things I'm really
Yeah,
interested
yeah.
in is sort of like indoor hydroponic gardening,
Hmm.
and there's a technique called aquaponics where
Oh,
you basically you cycle your water for your
yeah, yeah.
hydroponic garden through a fish tank
Oh, cool.
to imbue the water with the nutrients from
Uh
the
huh.
waste of the fish, and that helps fertilize the plants.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking maybe there is something to distributing nutrients into soil
yeah.
through like solutions or tea-like substance. I don't
Hmm.
think they're doing it for the right reason,
Yeah.
mind, but it's just something to bear in mind.
Yeah. Biodynamics is really frustrating in that way because you can't say, oh, 100%. Well, with some of their things, they can say
Yeah, let's
100% no.
hold off on that.
Yeah, but some of them, again, they sound okay. Like they sound, yep, sure, why not? I mean, if it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt, kind of a thing.
You know, yeah,
Yeah, but
spray your garden with tea, maybe.
sure.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the cow's horns. We'll see.
For these plants to give us a concentrated and very powerful preparation or solution that we can then add to the vineyard environment. And when I say add it, I'm not talking hundreds and hundreds of gallons per acre. I'm talking tiny homeopathic doses, where we are really releasing very small quantities out into a natural environment.
This is the cow
Hey,
manure
never
for
mind.
making 500, and
Releasing tea into the into the environment.
Yeah,
Let it
tiny
roam
amounts,
free.
tiny amounts of tea. So you're making tea and then just putting it on the dirt.
Yep.
Okay, never mind. Moving on.
or compost. Each preparation has its own purpose. 500 is applied to the soil to stimulate root growth and life in the soil. For 500, we'll fill
Preparation 500 sounds so scientific
horns
for
with
what it
these.
is.
We'll use
How do you think
our
you
horn.
decided on 500? Are
I,
there 499 preparations that we didn't get to hear about?
I believe they start at 500, the preparations. Like they're
Yeah, but
500
like,
through
did he
512.
pick 500 because it sounded scientific?
I'm gonna assume
Like,
so.
clearly, I've put so much effort in this. This is the
Yep.
500th try. But like,
there is
in actuality,
years of research have gone into this, surely.
500 is the cow horn with manure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, and I found out in another video about biodynamic farming, they first like turn the manure for an hour to oxygenate it. They're just like literally standing over the manure, just like throwing shovelfuls of it around to oxygenate it.
You aerate soil.
Yeah, I've never aerated manure though. I
I've
don't.
never aerated any compost like fertilizer material,
No,
to be
no.
honest.
Maybe we should
Usually
start.
I put
Maybe
that in the
that's
soil
the
and
difference.
aerate the whole mixture.
Yeah.
But that's more for like root development than like. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fascinating.
Mature
I'm learning so
500
much.
manure in over winter because it's an organic vessel that can be found on farms. It helps protect the manure from the winter rains, so it's able to mature in a drier environment. It doesn't get waterlogged and anaerobic. It's just a good maturation vessel that's organic.
One way or the other, we're digging them up today. Because of all that worm.
I wonder how.
Right, you have to dig them back up.
Yeah, I wonder how much the employers are on board with this, because like
Oh, 100%. They bought in.
if I hired on at a vineyard and then was expected to like aerate manure and dig it up after 9 months, I think I'd have some questions.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Are you sure?
You want me to do what now?
Wait. Did they do the quartz in this one?
Yes, they do.
Oh, nice. I can't wait to see that. That's
When we dig up the cow horns, we're looking to see that the manure that we've put in the horns has changed from.
when you dig up the cow.
Also, I mean, and I know it's a minor point, but I mean, they're technically making a foodstuff, and that nobody is wearing gloves right now when handling the manure.
Okay, well,
That
look,
is,
listen,
I know, they're farmers and blah blah, and it's going into the
it's
soil.
organic, okay?
Still, I'm just, oh, come on.
Oh, they'll wash it off with some yarrow blossom. Digging up the cow manure. Oh, God.
The aged cow manure that has been protected from the winter
Ripened cow
rains.
manure. The fully matured cow
Mhm,
manure.
mhm.
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna. This is preparation 500.
500.
Being a green raw material to a mature, more humus-like material.
Oh,
It doesn't smell like manure. It just
Oh.
smells like this beautiful earth.
We're
Come on,
trying to
guys.
bring the outside environment into our vineyards, and not only use biodynamic preparations and biodynamic ways of farming with astrological signs and rhythms and cycles. We're also trying to bring more what we would call native or local.
So astrology gets a bad rep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look, if you're trying to judge sort of the changing of the seasons and different, like, growing seasons are a real thing, and you can mark them with astrological signs or with months.
Yeah.
Months, I think, is a little bit more efficient at the moment, but like in 1907, maybe the astrological sign was a little bit easier to keep track of.
Sure.
You know, that's not completely absurd. The phase of the moon, I don't know if I really agree with that.
Yeah.
And again, they might have been on to something true, but for the wrong reason.
Sure. And, I mean, like, it's the whole thing, like, people are pre-programmed to see patterns, so that some kook on some mountain sees some pattern with, like, the moon or whatever. Sure, maybe. But the fact that it's, like, best practices on a modern vineyard is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really shocking.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that for a moment.
Sure. That is a valid point. One of the very few valid points being made in this video.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to bear in mind that they're digging up cow poop, so.
Okay. They're grinding up the quartz, and it looks like some sort of cocaine operation.
Yeah. That's what you want. You're right in there.
When we were grinding the crystals, we were making preparation 501. That's a silica preparation that's ground up.
This is where we're going to be adding our water to the process to make our silica porridge.
It's packed into a cow horn and left in the soil over summer. Right. Silica crystals are used to enhance the plant's connection to the light forces.
Oh, they missed. So have you ever had sort of a fungal or like a moss infestation in your garden?
Thankfully, no. Well, apart from mildew.
Yeah, mildew.
Mildew's
a good example.
Oh, excellent.
So mildew grows on things when things are damp. Right? Silica, we all know, like a silica gel is sold in all of your packages to absorb moisture. So, again, they're not doing this. But if you were to incorporate silica gel into gardening, you could absorb some moisture. Prevent some of those antifungal things from coming up.
Sure. And like if you're really trying to bend over backwards, I could see sort of like adding minerals or something to the soil. I could see somebody making that point, but the point they are making just
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
scan.
you know, you just, oh, you were almost there and you missed. And,
Yeah.
oh, it's pretty typical of Nazis.
And also to enhance or to stimulate, photosynthesis.
We
Oh, okay, that's a beautiful picture, by the way. The horn with the crystals. That's
Mm.
very sort of tradwife aesthetic
Hey,
Tumblr blog.
listen, it might be cool, get like a court stuffed cow's horn, like pendant.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Definitely don't put it in the ground and think that
Yeah,
it's helping with photosynthesis. I don't know where you got that.
But it's really amazing. So apparently you put the cow manure in the horn over winter, and then over summer you're reusing materials to put the quartz in the ground over summer. I mean,
Yeah.
brilliant.
I find a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
in these preparations. Is there's a lot of bury that over the summer,
Uh-huh.
bury that over the winter,
Yeah.
bury that for a year, bury that over the winter, bury that over the summer.
Yep.
And it's like how did you come to these conclusions? But obviously it was, that was probably the 300s, the 300 set of
Yeah,
preparations.
yeah.
They
In the
figured
370s, it
out,
really went into like the exact timings of these
yeah,
things.
the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
a
can't wait
way
to
of
get to the
focusing
silica.
the light and or enhancing the light that already exists out there and bringing that into the canopy.
With biodynamics, you try and close the loop by reusing what you're exporting, like our waste pumice, and using that as our fertility material as opposed to just purchasing organic fertilizers. With biodynamics, you make preparations to try and increase the life in the soil and enhance the biodiversity of life in the soil.
Or you could compost.
Sorry?
Or they could just compost.
Oh, that is an option.
I don't see that we're trying to convert other people. We're trying to learn, and we believe it's the right thing to do by the land, by all the workers, and by the end consumer. And having started off as a skeptic, I now would consider myself neither a skeptic nor a devout follower. I believe that there is something to it. I believe that there is something powerful to biodynamics.
As we increasingly divorce ourselves from and cut off ourselves from nature, we forget these cycles and these rhythms in nature. And so biodynamics is simply trying to put your farm and your mindset back into these natural energetical rhythms that are happening outside.
I like all that.
Yeah,
I like all that.
sure. Like, connection
Sure.
to the land, to the community, to nature. Okay,
Love
sure.
all that.
Yeah.
What was up with that quartz again, though? Okay.
Oh,
Tribes to express where they're grown, more so than with conventional farming. We believe that by growing the preps on
if I read that label on the wine bottle correctly, it said essence of oregano on it. But maybe I've misread.
Yeah, maybe.
site and making the preps on
Oh my. Oh, that's a lot of cow horns.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my.
can't throw away a cow horn.
Oh,
But you
God.
use these things, all
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Look, are you gonna waste the cow horn?
That is true. That is true. You can't waste a good cow horn.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard about bone meal being used as a fertilizer, so you could
Yeah.
be grinding it up and like actually use, but just
They're not even
put in
putting
that
the
closet
cow.
over
They're not even putting the cow horn into the soil. Well, into the soil where they grow things, though, do they? I think it's just like in one spot next to the field with the manure, and then they shake the manure out, and the cow horn itself doesn't go into the.
there. I didn't know that.
I think so.
I just assumed that they would bury it under the crops. Because why would you bury it over there?
Well, I assume because like in a vineyard, that's like those plants stick around, so you can't really like.
Yeah, that's true. Just gonna dig them up?
Yeah.
I see some flaws in this.
site. We can translate more the essence of the site to the grapes?
It's hard to quantify it in any way, but
I wonder
what
why.
I've observed,
I know. I'm surprised that you can't quantify the result of the manure cow horn quartz thing.
and what I taste on a regular basis in our wines from biodynamic grapes, is that they have more vitality, they have more vibrancy, and the wines themselves tend to have better balance.
Not everyone's going to understand it. Not everyone thinks that way. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to show them, show them your farm, show them your compost, show them the wine you make, and say, look, is this not good practices? Is this not good farming
No.
practices?
No!
Is this not fantastic wine?
No, decidedly not.
Oh god. And this video was made by the vineyard. Like, they think this makes them look good.
I mean, it makes them sound almost like they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
There were a lot of parts, especially when he was talking about what the quartz
yeah,
does,
yeah.
where you could see them running into brick walls. Like, yeah, it aids with photosynthesis. That's a sciencey word, right?
Oh yeah. But they were speaking with such confidence, I almost wanted to believe them.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the funny parts. Like, my favorite of these preparations is is getting the deer bladder and stuffing that with yarrow blossoms.
Oh yeah, oh
But it
that's
has
lovely.
to be a sun-dried deer bladder.
Oh, of course.
That's
Come on.
brilliant.
Also, like these days, where would you get a sun-dried deer splatter? I mean,
I
you know,
asked on
in
Twitter,
19.
nobody had one.
Oh, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, because like in 1905, you just like go into the forest and shoot a deer, sure. But
Yeah,
these
sure.
days, I'm just like, where, where are you
Where,
gonna? I mean, is there like a purveyor of sun-dried deer bladders?
deer bladder for sale. Huh.
What?
Let me just make sure that this is what large air dried oval sleep. Oh no, no.
Oh, okay. Oh my god.
These are used for specialty sausages. It's not a real bladder. It's a sausage wrapping.
Oh, okay, okay.
Ooh, but an inflated buffalo bladder.
Oh, nice.
It's not a deer, but you know.
Well, you know, with the connection with the soil,
Yeah,
you
you can
know,
get
if
an
you're in a
inflated buffalo bladder for $29 online.
that's a deal. You should order that. That's a deal.
That's a steal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, put that in the garden. I'm sure it won't decompose immediately.
Oh no.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so interesting. So I feel like we started and we were talking about all of the useful parts of biodynamic practices
yeah.
that are really just standard organic practices,
Yeah.
like holistic farming.
Mm-hmm.
And then we listen to them talk, and you're like, oh wait, no, they're kooks.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. How did you feel reading about the what did they call it, the social threefolding?
Oh, I'm like I am totally into like the community and blah blah, but it also sounds kind of like cultish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it always like the thing about biodynamics, like on the surface, yeah, sure, why not do that if it makes you happy? But like literally, it's just under the surface, you're thinking like, oh, what? No, sure, I guess, no. That's sort of my emotional journey with every single thing about biodynamics.
So I'm reading about this, and this phrase social threefolding sort of comes up,
Yeah.
and I have no idea how I felt about it at the time. So the idea was there are three parts of your life that should always be kept separate. Your human rights and your equality and political life should be separate from your freedom and cultural life, which should be separate from
Associate
your economic
corporate, yeah. Associative
So-
cooperation in economic life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little. It sounds good
Yeah.
until you realize that his just to preface,
Mm-hmm.
the biodynamic movement and the entire anthroposophy movement was shut down by Hitler in 1941. Strange that we still call it Nazi farming, but I mean they have swastikas in their symbol. What you want me to do?
Yeah.
They were shut down by Hitler because Steiner was a segregationist, I believe, and not, I don't know what you would call like full-on Nazi, but yeah, he believed in just keeping all of the different social castes separate from one another. It sort of is reflected in the sort of overbearing and controlling way he approaches farming.
Yeah.
I mean, if we set aside the 8 weird preparations that are completely occultist and mystical, he's very meticulous about your planting, very meticulous
Yes.
about crop rotation, very meticulous about the percentage of land that should be just pure standard natural organic land, untouched as it were. And it seems that translates into his approach to social theory as well. I don't know how well integrated the social oddities are, the
Yeah.
social bigotries, the blatant fascism is into normal biodynamic like farming practices. But it does make you wonder if he's able to use organic farming as a vehicle for really toxic ideologies.
Yeah.
Can we use organic farming as a vehicle for like liberatory ideologies?
That's I don't because I mean there was a article in the New Yorker from 2013 about right-wing organic farmers of Germany. So this is like literally still a movement. It's still a thing. So even though like there's also like the roots of organic farming lie in fascism, like apparently also in Britain.
Yeah, no.
That there is
started,
this massive crossover.
Yeah.
But it has been completely like if you like ask anyone on the street, so what's the politics of your average organic farmer? They'd say communists, lefties, all of that stuff.
Probably liberal at the very least.
Yeah, yeah.
You would think. Till you realize that you bought Nazi honey.
I didn't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh God, Twitter's gonna cancel me, aren't they? Oh.
Yeah, it's over.
Ah.
It's over. But I don't know. It's weird. It got to England in 1928.
Yeah.
There was a lord who brought it over from some random biodynamics conference before Hitler managed to shut everything down. I don't know. It's a little odd.
Yeah. I mean, there is the separationist aspect, sort of like caring for your community and.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess the no outside influences also, like having the purity of the soil and the whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that
It
that
makes me wonder.
would appeal to a Nazi.
It really it's almost by the playbook. There's a certain parallel to I mean, obviously this maybe is the root of organic farming, but there's a certain parallel to there's a huge emphasis on heirloom gardening.
Oh
or
God,
heirloom
yeah.
growing. Heirloom tomatoes
Yeah.
are like one of the most popular versions of this.
Yeah.
I looked into that a little bit because it sort of follows
Yeah.
when you're doing the research. And the concept really was about that, maintaining the local ecosystem and environment and local biodiversity by using local seeds. And that seems fairly healthy to me as well.
Sure. I feel a butt coming on.
But I'm pretty sure if you look at it in biodynamics directly, a huge aspect of their community-supported agriculture was keeping the bad things out,
Yeah.
as opposed to preserving, just biodiversity in general. Um, and I think that sort of plays into that right-wing sort of ideology
Yeah.
a lot more. Permaculture
Mm-hmm.
is the term. Um, it's sort of a type of thinking about regenerative agriculture to preserve the ecosystem and, borrowing from the resilient features of the ecosystem and things that have been practiced over thousands of years to sort of benefit nature in general. That sounds very healthy. That's not what's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always it's very difficult to sort of draw that line, that distinction between the two.
Yeah.
Um,
And honestly, like always thinking about biodynamics really made me sort of question some of my plant buying choices because you slap the label historic on a plant and I'm
yeah,
all over that.
yeah, yeah. I tend to avoid that, but usually I'm just buying the cheapest seeds available.
No.
That's my strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have been, drawn to like, oh, what is there about, heirloom tomatoes that are so good?
Yeah.
And, you know, having been able to take some time and do some specific research on it, I'm pretty sure I'm not a fan.
Ah.
I'm pretty sure that ideology I think we can do away with. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. And I mean,
But
I can I can see somebody like just choosing a plant by highest yield per square foot or something.
mhm,
It's a bit boring. Then you have like one type of tomato, one type of apple, one type of
mhm.
whatever. So like I can see like wanting biodiversity within a type of plant,
Sure.
but then you just veer off into some really ugly historical thinking,
Yeah,
and I'm just
and
like, oh, come on.
I think there's a lot of demand in organic growing or in
Yeah.
growing in general that's done independently of like just the standard corporate,
Yeah.
sticker stuff
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
get at like your big stores. I think there's a real big demand for an alternative framework for approaching like, here's why we do organic farming.
Yeah.
Here's what we're about. Here's what we believe in that draws us to this. And I think, you know, the ideology from early 1900s Germany, shocker, probably not the healthiest.
Probably.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
throwing it out there. They might have missed.
I mean,
I don't know.
it's a thesis. It's a bit out there. That's
Yeah. It like came to prominence in the 1930s
yeah.
in Germany.
Yeah.
Mm,
Usually not a good sign.
usually that's a bad sign. But there are other like alternative organic farming movements that are like really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the first organic movements that like I really started following is something called slow food.
Oh
Now,
yeah. Yeah.
now slow food started in Italy, also in an awkward period of Italian history. So I'm not sure if its Italian roots match. I didn't hear about it from there. I heard about it from actually it was a Rastafarian farmer that I followed for a while, and he called it slow farming.
Yeah.
And there's also a similar Japanese movement that's natural farming, I think they call it,
Yeah.
where essentially you don't till the land, you don't fertilize, you don't deliberately plant anything.
Yeah.
You do things as naturally as possible, and you only harvest what the land naturally produces.
Yeah.
And I followed that for quite a while because it's part of that preserving your ecosystem and sort of letting the earth be its own balancing force. Because strip farming or commercial farming is just so bad for the environment.
Yeah.
That one seems to me to be rooted almost entirely in, positive principles of life. And there's no yarrow blossoms in a deer bladder. There's no cow horns full of quartz. It's just
There's no fascism,
Just
hopefully.
yeah, hopefully, like I
You
I
never
didn't
know.
think to look into it that
I
much.
mean,
I'm gonna
I
be
mean,
honest.
Germany, Italy, and Japan. They,
When you put it that way, maybe we should just go back to factory farming. Maybe
yeah.
that actually was the
Maybe
better.
that's. Let's just stay on the safe side.
Yeah, just to be on the safe side. Another alternative, like another alternative growing system, we might want to integrate, because that's really what we look into these things for. Is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what can we do as a society to provide food for everyone in a much healthier way that doesn't lead to the entire environment collapsing in 30 years. Um, another another decent option to me is this sort of French movement. They weren't fascists.
No.
It's sort of bio-intensive agriculture. So the theory there is it is sort of a return to that. What can I do to produce the most out of a square foot? But their method of going about it is so much healthier.
Yeah.
Because again, they're not spinning off into weird fascist theories or weird occultist practices that have no discernible benefit to the process at all. They developed things like the vertical gardens that I'm such a big fan of.
Yeah.
Soil rotation in raised garden beds is like a bio-intensive practice.
Oh, cool. Soil rotation.
And
I've never even heard of that.
yeah. Basically, it's the idea that because different plants absorb different nutrients from the soil. This is
Oh,
why
so
factory
it's like
farming is
crop
so bad.
rotation, basically.
Yeah,
Oh,
crop
okay.
rotation, except with your soil, because you're using small raised beds.
Yeah.
So as opposed to moving your entire layout of your garden around, you only get the sun in certain areas in your backyard. So you might need to grow tomatoes over there one year and peppers the next year, or corn one year, peas the next year. So in order to, while maintaining the sun on the plants that demand the sun the most and leaving those stationary, in order to rotate those nutrients, you rotate the soil instead of the plants that you plant in the area. That's pretty healthy. Another practice that they came up with is called companion planting. And this is something I didn't even know that I did all the time.
Yeah.
And basically you plant multiple plants in the same plot.
Yeah.
So you would have your corn, and below that you would have lettuce growing. Or you'd have your peas, which grow into pretty healthy sized bushes. And below that you could get, raspberries or something else growing.
Yeah.
Radishes, I stuff everywhere. And it's sort of a companion plant. And it helps because some companion plants, a lot of them we would call weeds, but aren't actually weeds. The nutrients that drip off of their roots into the soil are good for the plants that we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
So you can sort of cross-fertilize multiple plants just with this planting method.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of alternative growing techniques out there that are like not complete crap.
Yeah. I just realized I think I'm doing companion growing in my garden. We grow horseradish underneath the apple trees because we heard that the oils that sort of evaporate from the horseradish is good for like fewer pests on the apple tree. So
yeah, 100%. A lot of the companion plants are selected for their sort of natural anti-pest, like pesticide properties, because plants evolve as well, and like some plants don't like caterpillars crawling on them, so they excrete certain oils or certain fumes that chase caterpillars away.
yeah,
So if you plant a bunch of those in your tomatoes,
no
now
caterpillars
your
on the
caterpillars
tomatoes.
aren't
Nice.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another practice that's done. Yeah, it's sort of part of the whole agroecology like business, really. Sort of a whole school of thought that's developed. Yeah. trying to think. I'm trying to think if I can remember any of the other ones. I left my notes at work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember any of the other techniques that I looked up. I mean, the Japanese no-till farming
Yeah.
is very interesting. Even though I don't think that's something that could be applied everywhere, you kind of really need a
Yeah.
lot of land to get enough
Mm-hmm.
produce out of that.
Yeah. With all of these, scaling seems a problem. Also with like the soil
Scaling is a
rotation.
problem.
Yeah.
Except for some of the bio-intensive practices,
Mm-hmm.
vertical farming,
Yeah.
I think scales very well,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to consider it in a different way than you normally would.
Yeah.
Because instead of vertical farming for a community on one farm, it allows each member of the community to grow their own food.
Yeah.
That one I think scales pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the main gripes about organic growing or
Yeah.
organic farming in general, is that it seems very difficult to scale up.
Mm-hmm.
But something that's worth noting is that a factory farm
Mm-hmm.
requires, on average, 84% more land per crop than an organic farm.
Mm-hmm.
So while it seems counterintuitive, it's not only better for the environment to grow organically because you use so much less land
Mm-hmm.
on average, but if you then scale that up and make an organic farm the same size as a factory farm,
Mm-hmm.
you would get that much more produce out of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these organic practices could scale properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something that's been invested in because it's not
Yeah.
commercially viable. Yeah, there's something to that common complaint about organic farming that seems very odd to me. It's something about this. It's sort of the way capitalism treats everything in society, which
Mm-hmm.
is, this is the way we've done it. This is the way
Yeah.
we make the most profit.
Yeah.
So this is obviously the best way it could be done.
Mm-hmm.
When honestly, just taking a loss on producing food for everyone might produce more food for everyone.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah. I also think a lot of my gripes with organic farming come from, well, first of all, having read about biodynamics, now I question everything.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah. Now I'm like out of the movement.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But also because like it's never, I mean, just because it's never been done at scale doesn't mean it cannot be done at scale, you know?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
a lot like it's just a failure of my imagination. That basically, you know, we're just gonna have a lot more farmers again.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody's just going to have to farm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
used
don't
to be
think we're
what,
really in a place
80%
in that.
of the population used to be in some form of like their job was in farming, and now it's I think 6 or 7%. So maybe we just need more farmers again.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Or if we aren't going to have more dedicated like laborers as farmers,
Mm-hmm.
then everyone needs to become like household growing.
Yeah.
We need to get more self-sufficiency and self-reliance
Mm-hmm.
in our communities, because regardless, something has to change. Because if we keep farming, if we keep growing the way we are,
Yeah.
then you know the environment's going to collapse and we're all probably going to die.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
And
an
I also believe
uncomfortable
that the soil only had like I believe 60 years of factory farming left in it. So, you know, whether we, but whether it's climate change or the soil just giving up, something's gonna get us.
or both.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. I guess I understand the rationale behind seeking a process like biodynamics.
Sure.
I understand.
And I also
Some
looked at the
benefits.
prices of the of products of biodynamic products on Amazon. Jesus Christ, it's expensive. So like I see the appeal. Like if you already have an organic farm, might as well like slap that biodynamic label on it and like triple the price. Sure.
You don't know you're spreading Nazi ideology.
Exactly. Some
I've
people do it out of innocent ignorance.
Sometimes. Most people, I assume.
Oh God, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know that there are many people who have been looking up theosophy.
Yeah.
But it there's this connection between biodynamic growing, the pseudoscience therein, and like
Mhm.
anti-vaxxing movement.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think one of those connections is things that scare people the most are
Mhm.
things that could affect their
Mhm.
kids
Yeah.
negatively.
Mhm.
And we get so much in the media about like this will give you cancer.
Yeah.
This chemical is actually toxic.
Mhm.
You eat so much plastic. There's so much radiation everywhere. Your cell phone is frying your brain. Most of that is not true. Right?
Yeah.
Scientifically, it can be disproven. Um, but I, I find that some of the more hostile, some of the more corrupt
Mhm.
practices, like biodynamics, play off of those fears
Actually,
in order to raise the prices even more dramatically.
there is a direct link between biodynamics and anti-vax, and it is Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner has schools called Waldorf schools, and they are. Wait a second. This is from an article from the BBC. Steiner himself believed illnesses in our current lives could be examined by problems in our previous ones, and in overcoming illnesses with a root in a previous life, individuals can gain reinforced power and improve their karma. Vaccination, in effect, gets in the way. So, Waldorf schools are considered basically here, the Health Protection Agency note that Steiner schools ought to be considered unvaccinated populations for measles. So, yep.
Ah,
It's
there
it's
are 160 of these schools
hmm
in America.
yep.
That's fascinating.
It's really weird. Like Steiner, like the middle
There
class.
are 3 of them in my city.
Oh no.
Oh no, there's 2. It's the lower school and then the high school.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it's still not ideal, but
What?
better. Yep.
One of these is within comfortable biking distance of my house. Oh
Oh
my goodness.
no.
And it's called the Rudolf Steiner High School. Are you kidding me? I want to get directions to it. I want to see exactly how. It is less than 1 mile. This is walking distance from my house.
I think you're having a like Nazi honey in your kitchen moment right now.
Yeah, this is baffling. I had no
Yeah,
idea that this
yeah.
was here. I'm gonna have to go outside with the dust mask on now.
Definitely.
Goodness.
But it's so funny, like middle class people, like organic food, private schools, and not vaccinating their kids. So it's like
Yeah.
Rudolf Steiner has the whole package for them.
Yeah, right there, boom, and some Nazism to go
Yeah,
with it.
hey.
Which is, maybe that explains another one of those roots that this like far right, this extremist ideology gets into your system. Maybe not deliberately through organic gardening, but definitely through these Waldorf schools that he started in part through spreading organic gardening
Yeah.
profitably. It's interesting. In this neighborhood, a half a mile away from the Rudolf Steiner Biodynamics High School is the Ann Arbor STEM Elementary School, which is the science, something, engineering, and mathematics
Yeah.
high school. They're half a mile apart from each other. And then,
The annual football game must be quite quite a thing.
that has to be interesting. Yeah, that's terrifying.
There's also apparently rampant racism in those schools. Well, I don't know about rampant, but there have been many, many accusations of racism, obviously.
I had no idea. Waldorf schools. I feel like I've heard of it before. But maybe that's just because I've been reading about Rudolf Steiner for so long. I've seen the word too many times.
Yeah. I mean, again, like Waldorf schools, the view I had of them, just like from sort of what you catch in the air, it's sort of like they're sort of hippie-ish. People sort of dance and express themselves artistically, and there's not like this academic pressure, especially on very young kids. So a lot of people like sending their kids there just to have them develop to a full human being and all of that. And apparently
So
the racism is incidental.
tuition,
Hmm.
if you're sending your kid there in preschool or kindergarten, tuition for 1 week
Hmm.
at this Waldorf school, not in my city but nearby,
Yeah.
$9,330
No.
for
What?
5 days.
The what?
Yeah, well, grades 1 through 8 are a little bit more reasonable. They're only
Oh, well,
$9,400
well
per
then,
year. Per year.
it's basically a lost leader,
It's
so. Jesus
wow.
Christ. How many students do they have? How many rich people do you have in that city? Jesus Christ.
Wow. And Waldorf teachers are paid on average
Hmm.
twice as much as a normal teacher.
Of course.
Interesting. Yeah, of course.
9,000 for, oh my God.
$9,300 for 5 days.
Hmm.
Jeez. What is going on? Have you seen any of these? Have you looked at pictures of these schools?
I have, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
There's one in the UK. Oh my goodness. It's in a castle.
Of
That's a
course,
castle.
of course.
Holy.
For 9,000, if it's not in a castle, I'm gonna want my money back.
Sorry, that just blew my mind. Yeah, now I'm worried. I'm like gonna have to go
Hmm.
Google and see which of my politicians came from Waldorf school.
Yeah. Oh, I found a BBC news 5 minute. Just a minute. Thing about Steiner School racism and bullying concerns revealed from Newsnight from
Oh,
2014.
lovely.
Okay.
Einfach auf
Oh,
wix.com.
that was an ad. Okay.
I think the Steiner pedagogy is a really interesting philosophy for many reasons, not least the fact that it centers on the child and the child's education holistically. They focus on the human being and they nurture and they are affectionate, and I think that that's really important to build the human being before you build an academic or a worker.
Steiner schools, sometimes called Waldorf or Steiner Waldorf schools, have a bit of a following.
1, 2.
There are now about 30 private Steiner schools, and since 2008, 3 state ones. Another is on the way. But Newsnight has exclusively seen 2 Department for Education memos which relate serious concerns about Steiner schools. Memos that the British Humanist Association had to go to court to get released. The memos from 2010 come from the early days of the Free Schools programme, and note that the civil service had received material indicating that the Steiner curriculum is structured around the spiritual philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, called anthroposophy. Rudolf Steiner was an Austrian-born occultist who died in 1925, but his ideas, anthroposophy, live on. It's a spiritual doctrine that covers everything from homeopathy and...
Sorry?
I wonder how many times he had to practice saying anthroposophy.
Well, yesterday I did about 20 times and I'm still saying it wrong, so...
Yeah, I tried 3 times and then I felt silly.
Yeah.
It's I'll just say it wrong, I don't care.
Also, I said it so many times, I thought I was I'm going to conjure the spirit of Rudolf Steiner, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to stop now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, come with his cow horn. That somewhere.
Biodynamic farming to the purpose of life. This grand work still fills bookshops.
Architecturally, very interesting building.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying.
Mm.
Beautiful looking school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Includes some rather particular ideas about race and reincarnation. Specifically, that people with darker skin are less evolved. But if they do well, if they have good karma, they can hope to be reincarnated in later lives as a higher ranked race.
And apparently, from what it looks like, this is actually the bookshop in the Steiner school. If I'm because he walked into the school and now he's in the bookshop, and apparently this is just fine to sell to the
Well,
public,
no, of
I
course,
guess.
they're paying $9,000 a week.
Ac-
Of course.
Actually, why do you have to buy the book for $9,000 a week? I think.
Excuse me. Free?
Yeah.
Have some
Of course,
class,
are at
please.
They evolved
Oh,
from
boy.
advanced colonists from the lost
Oh.
continent of Atlantis. The controversy around Steiner schools relates to just how many of his less palatable ideas make their way into the classroom. The real question is, just how much Rudolf is there in the Steiner schools?
The idea
Well, I mean,
that
his name's on them.
Yeah. And his books in the bookshop, so apparently they
What do
are
you
still
mean?
fun. Yeah.
we have incarnated through the races is a very controversial idea.
Sorry.
This is not part of our modern thinking in Steiner schools at all. In fact, I would find it quite outrageous and unacceptable. And it is not a basis upon which one would want to found any criticism of Steiner schools today, because it just does not exist. It is not what we believe.
But some of those ideas have occasionally cropped up within the private Steiner schools very recently, and some parents are worried about speaking out.
There was diversity training at the school, and part of it was ticking boxes of which ethnicity you were. And 4 of the teachers ticked all the boxes, and the trainer asked why on earth they'd done that. And they said because they'd been all those races. And all those teachers were white, so obviously they see themselves as the pinnacle.
The Department for Education memos also reveal some important concerns about bullying. For example, it said that in 8 of the 25 private Steiner schools there had been serious complaints about staff bullying pupils. There were also concerns about policies on stamping out bullying, and worries that this might be related to Rudolf Steiner's teachings. The memos report a complaint that one parent witnessed a physical attack on their son where a teacher failed to intervene, and the teacher subsequently justified this approach by claiming that the children were working out their karma. But that's certainly not the approach everywhere.
There was an incident where my child was attacked in class, and it was terribly traumatic for everybody involved. The school, however, were incredible at dealing with it. The teacher in the classroom, the assistant, were both very nurturing, very caring, and my daughter has flourished and grown after the event. The school management team pounced on the problem very, very quickly.
Since the memos are written, 3 new
What does
state
that
Steiner
mean?
schools have been opened.
Sorry?
What does that mean? That they were caring and nurturing?
Yeah.
What? Did she go to a Waldorf school? How? Wait a minute. Because, you know, you could take that, so if you believe that somehow bullying is adjusting karma, which that's, let's leave that off to the side for a moment.
Sure.
If she believed that, then letting it go on would be the caring and nurturing thing to do, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But also, you know, as someone who, I've studied quite a lot of Buddhism in my day, I've read a lot about karma. You can't, like, people don't just like adjust each other's karma.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how that works.
There is a blog called Waldorf Watch of basically like former students and teachers just like relaying their experiences, and it's super interesting. And there was this one incident where like because the children are unsupervised during breaks where they play outside, and they were playing by a stream with a wheelbarrow and threw a child in the stream with no teacher around, and the teachers didn't like dry her off or help her out or anything. Like that child was sopping wet when their parent picked it up. And they said, yeah, well, they were working out their karma. It's insane. For $9,000 a week, you get, you know, your child almost murdered in the stream and then, you know, sopping wet to like catch pneumonia, I guess.
Oh.
These schools are what biodynamics is to farming, these schools are to education.
This
Or approved
is fascinating.
That's not uncontroversial given the nature of Steiner's work. The DFE memos note that it obviously wouldn't approve anything where racism or bullying were issues. Tonight, it added that it can and it would close schools, even private ones, where they were. But that doesn't close the question of whether this Austrian mystic's ideas are actually worth public money.
Yep.
Wow. This is not where I expected this podcast to go.
Yep.
But I am now reading about the procedural indoctrination of children
Oh, wow.
into fascist occultism.
Uh-huh.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. And all of that just like, what, 10 minutes away from your house?
Pure source from which everything flows. Pure source where everything returns. Pure source who lives in me. To you I will advance.
Oh. Oh.
Original self from which we come, the origin that lives in all things, to thee, thou higher self, we return. That is just straight up fascist.
Mm-hmm.
That's like literally, that's fascist rhetoric 101.
Yep.
Wow.
For the under 10s.
For the under 10s. And apparently you recite poems like that over and over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And they never give you the origin of them. They never credit them to anything.
Yep.
They just sort of have you memorize these terrifying passages. Nice.
Yep.
I did, multiplication tables when I was in school.
I know. We learned like the alphabet.
Yeah. So that's terrifying.
Uh-huh.
Back to farms.
Okay, sure.
Let's go back to something, safe, like oak bark and dog skulls. Jesus. What have you brought us? How did we get here?
Literally, with me, it started 3 days ago. I thought, oh, I know biodynamic is a label, but I don't actually know what it means. I'm going to look that up. And it's all been downhill from here.
Oh, boy. Oh, that just ruined my whole night. I'm going to have nightmares.
Oh, no.
Wow. Okay. So, for sure, throw away that honey.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there might be needles in there.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? You think you're eating honey, and really it's chamomile blossoms that were stuffed into the small intestines of cattle and buried underneath the
where there's rain flow off.
Jeez. Okay, so that's biodynamics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There was also one guy I watched on YouTube, a Croatian, I believe, a biodynamic farmer, who meditated away the slugs. There were slugs on his farm.
That's impressive.
I know. And he meditated, and he, meditated to the snails to please leave his farm alone. And he had a little strip of strawberries, and he said, there, you can have that. Just leave the farm alone. And you know what? They left his farm alone. It totally worked. There was apparently a plague of snails, and all his neighbors had to spray left and right and in front of him and behind his farm. But on his farm, he did not spray, and the snails left him alone.
Aryan man.
That's the one.
Yeah. Anthroposophy or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they teach that Aryans have psychic powers. So,
yep.
Evidence. Boom. He is pure spirit being right there.
Exactly.
Can't touch that.
Huh. Could not be that, the wind carried some of the pesticides from his neighbors onto his farm. No.
Or maybe...
No.
Maybe the biodiversity in the ecosystem, sort of like we were talking about, there's some companion plants that are discouraging snails from crawling through. No. Meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe he got infested with snails and is just lying.
That is also very likely.
Yeah.
And also, that guy worked as a teacher.
That's a teacher, cool.
Yeah. I'm very, very relieved by that.
He must have taught the caste system. One of these Waldorf schools.
Oh my God.
$50,000 a year. Holy cow. It's been quite a ride.
It has been. Oh, and it's been over an hour, so thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry I ruined your night.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Sure, not a problem.
Wow.
Sleep well. Sleep well. Check your kitchen for Nazi honey, just in case.
Yeah, nope, none of that here.
Oh, brilliant.
We shop at Kroger.
Ah, wonderful.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.